Here, this is Jesse James Dupree from Jackal, and we cranking it up right here. I've also got a solo album. Don't miss that. Jesse James Dupree saying you are down right smack dab on top of CMS TV. Pow!
Without saying anything specific, I'll tell you this. We would go visit the various bases. Me and General Livesey, we would go visit the various bases. And his staff. It wasn't just me and him. It was me, him, his staff. You know, we would go visit the various places around Korea. And there were some places that we visited. Let's just say half a mountain would open so that we could get in, you know. Or you would roll up on what was seemingly nothing, and then you would drive down, and then you were in a missile silo or something like that for nuclear missiles and shit. It was impressive, but it was weird. You went through when you went in, it was like you went into a whole nother dimension, not just world. Like back then, I'm going to be careful how I talk about this, even though it's 40 years old, it shouldn't matter. Back then, we used the oldest technology. I don't even know if I want to say what it was, but day to day, we were using what would be the green CRTs that you used in the 90s and whatnot, the text, you know, the early computer stuff.
Yeah.
But we had that shit in the 80s. We had internet. We had internet back and forth in Korea in 1987. We used to send messages. It wasn't called email back then. I think it was called BBS, Bulletin Board System or something. It was something different, but we used that to communicate, and it was so different of a technology back then. Like, we used to have to go into the SCIF, the Secure Compartment Information Facility. It's a lockdown information place that you had to have a specific security clearance in order to even walk into it. You would go in there and you would get a tape off of a machine, and the tape told you how to program at the time what was a modem. They didn't call it a modem at that time, but it was a slide-in card, and it had a bunch of toggle switches on it.
Yeah.
And you would take this thing out and you'd look at this tape and you'd be like, all right, number 2 is 31, number 3 is 16, number 4 is 8, and you'd set it all up and then you'd plug this bitch back in and it would either light up green or light up red. Green meant you made a connection and you were good for 24 hours or 12 hours or whatever it was. Red meant you were wrong or that the code had expired or whatever. It was like an early fob. But it was this was 1987, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We were still at barely into cable TV at that point.
Right, yeah.
But yet over there in Korea, we had some shit. And believe me, we had tons of drills of if there is a call for a nuclear fire, how do you make sure that it's not fake? What are the backups in place? How long can you take in the backups in place? Who signs off? Who turns keys? Who holds keys? There were so many rules to it and so many things. And that's back in the 80s. I can't even imagine what it's like now.
Yeah.
I could tell you this as far as weaponry, though. There were more than a few that I heard of. I didn't know anybody, but I heard of that would test weaponry in California and would end up getting honorably discharged because they got a piece of their hand sawed off by the weaponry that wasn't quite right.
Wow.
They'd hold a special kind of a gun or a machine gun or the one that I remember hearing where a guy lost his arm was one of the early sound, I don't know what those are called, that project sound.
Yeah.
But it's so loud it'll break windows and stall cars and, there's almost like an electric current that comes out of this shit.
Like an EMP kind of thing?
Yeah, sort of, but it just did sound. And they would roll them out on APCs. We rolled them out in Qatar and Iraq, where we would go into a place where we knew there was people and we would just fire up these things and be making all this fucking noise, and people would come running out because with their fucking eardrums bleeding and stuff because it would blow their eardrums.
Wow.
It was so fucking loud. But I remember when they were testing one, the force of the sound blew it off its mount and took a guy's arm right off with it.
Wow.
And I remember hearing about it. I remember my ex coming home and saying, "You're not going to believe what fucking happened today." I was like, "What?" She's like, "This guy lost his fucking arm."
You're an intel guy. Are there aliens?
Are there aliens?
Yeah.
None that I saw.
But there's a place where they actually have stuff that you don't know if there's aliens or not.
Yeah, I guess. I don't. First of all, I don't believe that it's in Area 51. So I think Area 51 is a very convenient, puts it on the map and gets all the loonies to go out there. My hunch is if there is truly an alien study facility or something,
yeah,
it's on this coast. It's over here. It's in Philly. It's in Washington. It's as far away from where they're telling you it is as it can be to get everybody to go over there and go to Pahrump, Nevada and visit all the fucking Art Bell shops and whatnot. That's what they're doing. They want it all out there. They want to control. And you got to think like the military does. What is their main job? To control chaos. What's the easiest way to control chaos? Tell people it's over there instead of where it really is.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of, I've always thought, I have no proof of that at all. I've never been to Area 51, nor have I ever known anybody that says they've been to Area 51. But I don't believe it's there at all. I can't believe that you would have something so top secret that nobody knows anything about it when you have 500,000 people a year that go visit it. 500,000 people a year go visit that place and not one person in 50 fucking years has ever snuck on. Do you really believe that?
Do you think that our government and our military is secretive enough to keep all these things away from everyday Americans?
Yes, totally do.
I mean, like you talk about weaponry and stuff like that. Why hasn't somebody been who's just pissed off with the military left and said, I'm going to tell all?
A lot of jail time behind that, man.
Or do you think they end up worse than that?
You can get executed for that. I mean, that is treason. That is the definition of treason. When they do tell all, Edward Snowden, what happens to them? They spend the rest of their life either in hiding or catching a bullet somewhere when they're asleep. You can't, dude. I had this one guy in the military. I won't say his name, obviously. It's funny we're talking about this because it's the same thing. Those tapes that I was telling you about that you set the modem things with.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Maybe he got busy or something when he's working. He just stuffed it in his pocket or something. Went home, took it out of the secured place. Got caught because the lady that washed his clothes turned it in. He went to jail.
Wow.
Like they yanked him out of Korea. One day he was there, the next day he was not. Wow. And we were like, what the fuck happened to him? And they were like, he was found to have confidential or secure material outside of a skiff. And they fucking took him down. He's probably still he's still making license plates.
But see, that's what I always wonder about when it comes to like conspiracy stuff, like whether it's 9/11, whether it's JFK, whether it's whatever it is. And you sit there and go, how many people know about this shit and didn't say anything? I don't believe, like, I'm being honest with you. I have a hard time. I've seen a lot of evidence. I've talked to quite a few people that are in the field of study when it comes to landing on the moon.
Okay, yeah.
And part of me seriously believes that I'm not sure that we ever went there. Or at least when we said we went there. Because there's a lot of evidence from people, again, I've talked to some experts on the whole thing. Bob did a whole hour-long show with a guy that is an expert on the moon landing.
Sure.
And when you look at a lot, sometimes I think, well, I don't think that actually happened. There's a lot of evidence that says this did not happen. But then you sit there and go, how many people have to be in on that fucking secret that nobody said anything since it happened?
But here's the thing. People have said it, but they've discredited them so badly that nobody, same with JFK. Anybody that says anything other than fucking Oswald did it from the 6th floor of the book depository, first thing comes out of your mind, oh, what's your conspiracy? That's the first thing that they've conditioned you to say is this guy's a conspiracy theorist. Same with 9/11. Dude, me and you have both watched the same videos over and over of the plane where the wing disappears right before it hits the building and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
We've all watched that stuff. And what happens? What happens with it? The minute you say it, you're a conspiracy nut.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you're not a conspiracy nut if you do think that. The weird thing is those, I saw that too. Those that believe in this stuff, they really believe in this stuff. Like Scooby said there, Eric believes pretty much everything is a conspiracy.
Right.
If you were sick last week, that's clearly the government trying to shut you down.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, he believes we did last week on the Ferrantino show, on the Chris Aiken Presents show. We did probably 45 minutes on why the Space Shuttle Challenger did not blow up and how the astronauts are still alive today.
I saw a TikTok video.
Some of them using their real names.
I saw a TikTok video where it shows where the astronauts actually are today.
Yeah, well, I think we probably played it.
Yeah, you probably did.
We probably played it. And again, do I believe that? My truth, and I sound like a liberal faggot saying it that way, but my truth is I really don't care. I don't care if Christy McAuliffe is dust or living in Utah. I really don't care.
I understand.
It doesn't affect me.
I understand why you say that, but at the same time, don't you want to know why they would hide it? Why they would, why would they fake something like that? I understand why you fake a moon landing because you're trying to. There's a space race going on with other countries, China or whatever, Russia. But I don't understand why you would fake a space shuttle explosion for what?
Space shuttle explosion? Well, they faked the one. If it's fake, Not saying it is.
We're not saying it is.
Not saying it is at all. But if it's fake, you took the one time when they got lax with space study. You got to remember the time, and you got to look at the whole picture, not just boom. You know, you got to look at, this was at a time when space shuttles got to be common. You remember, and you may not remember, I think you're probably too young. Your dad would remember this, but
Who?
Stop.
Get ready to turn up the excitement at your next event with the Perfect Choice Band, the ultimate party starters in Ohio and beyond. Picture this: 2 electrifying vocalists, a powerhouse rhythm section, and a horn ensemble that will blow you away. That's right, the Perfect Choice Band isn't just another cover band. We're here to transport you to the heart of the party with unforgettable renditions of your favorite hits. From classics to chart toppers, we've got your playlist covered. Our mission? To keep you singing and dancing until the stars fade into dawn. So, why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary? Call 440-346-5242 or visit us at perfectchoiceband.com to book the ultimate entertainment experience for your special day. The Perfect Choice Band, where every moment is music to your ears. Don't miss out. Book now and let's make memories together.
When a rocket left to go to orbit the Earth or go to the moon or whatever, it was a huge event.
Well, yeah.
It was on every TV channel. Then they talked about it incessantly for another week until they came home, showed the landing, showed everything else, showed all this stuff, right? Well, by the time the space shuttle was doing its thing, and it really wasn't going anywhere, it was just flying around.
Right.
You know, by the time the space shuttle came, they weren't even putting it on TV anymore. It might have been on CNN, the launch or something. So what did they do? They made a big deal about, we're going to send up the first ever civilian. We're sending up the first ever civilian up there. So now you got all the people that have quit on the space program suddenly interested in it again. And for those that still weren't interested in it, about half of them had kids. So their kids were being fed it because it was a teacher. So you got probably 100 million people interested in that space launch. And then it blows up. And then it's like, ooh, the space program is still important because we saw what happened. And think about it. It stayed important after that explosion for how long? Another 15 years or so?
Yeah.
Stayed like every time it launched, it was on all the news channels again. They built interest for it. Now, if you want to really tear this down and go, why would they do that? Why do they need that interest? Why do they need that? It's so that they can hide the money. NASA and civil defense takes more money than anything else in our government. And if you've got people that are like, well, we just had our 7 heroes blown up. Spend any money to fix it. Spend any money to fix these O-ring problems or whatever. You know, nobody questions think about it this way. So, see, you're playing right into what I do know.
I'm sure.
Take this into just consideration. You're sending a thing up on 10 zillion gallons of rocket fuel, literal rocket fuel, right? And the only thing keeping it safe from exploding is a rubber O-ring, a piece of plastic that you could go and buy today at Lowe's for about $1. You're going to tell me that if this is the technology that they're using, we had a failed O-ring, a failed piece of rubber that probably costs, let's be generous here. What do you think it costs the military to buy that? $10,000?
That's being generous, I would assume.
That's probably being generous. But $10,000, what do you think when it goes bad, what do you think the value, if it's $10,000 for that part, what do you think the value becomes to build a better, safer part? $1 million, maybe $2 million. Now multiply that by every system, every part, every bit of the space shuttle. You're talking billions of dollars that they can hide because there's not going to be any oversight looking at it. There's not going to be people going to the streets saying, hey, where is all this money going? All they're saying is, we can't have another one of our people blown up again. That's what they're saying.
Very interesting.
And I could be full of shit too.
Yeah, but it makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
Well, I just observe. You know, I was trained by our wonderful army to observe and make conclusions on things. And that is the conclusion I have. And for what it's worth, I don't necessarily even know that I believe that we did not land on the moon, to be honest. I hear all the stuff about this. It's a weird thing because, like you said, it's awful hard to keep everybody silent for 60 fucking years.
Right.
At the same time, there are a lot of things that don't make sense. Just an obvious one. How come every meteor we've ever seen is some weird shape? Looks like a potato that was grown around a tree. But the Earth is the most perfect circle that you'll ever see.
Oh.
It's the most perfectly round ball. Not even a little lopsided or nothing. It's so perfectly symmetrical, and therefore it can rotate without any weirdness that happens from one side or the other, falling out of line. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Especially after a Big Bang, right?
Yeah. But every other planet that we find, when these zillion-dollar telescopes go out to another galaxy and they find another planet, that shit looks like you threw a bag of Legos against the wall.
Right.
That's what it looks like. It looks goofy. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if any of it's real or not. I know what, as a former Intel analyst, I know what I was trained to look for. And when I see all this kind of shit, I look past surface level. I don't look at these protests even and say, oh, these people are mad about this. I look at, how does this benefit the midterms? How does this benefit financing certain things? How does this make it harder for Trump to get this or that passed? I
agree with that.
But that's how everything is. Everything is, there's no such, I'm a firm believer that there is no such thing as a truly random act. I just don't believe it. Not something that affects a country or a nation. There's no random act. It's all got a bigger picture. 9/11, whether you think it was real, fake, state-sponsored, 19 random Joes, whatever you believe on it, you cannot argue that it completely overhauled how we travel, how we integrate with people, how we judge people, what we allow. It changed everything about this country and the world.
Well, no doubt. But you're right. I mean, I totally agree with you on all that stuff. I mean,
it's crazy, man. It's a crazy world.
They call stuff conspiracies, but behind every conspiracy, there is some truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why I love the flat Earth guy.
I love the flat Earth guy. He's great. I don't believe everything he says, but
he makes you think.
He does. Well, and that's all you need to do is think. That's always that. I remember that when I was in AIT going through Intel school. That was like literally first day thought was, whatever you believe, don't. Listen and think. That was like they taught us that day one, and then we spent another 8 weeks learning how to do that. But that literally was day one, was whatever you believe from what you see, don't believe it anymore. Only believe evidence. Only look. Only watch. Only, make smart predictions, and then take those predictions and play it against what somebody else is saying is their prediction. See which one makes more sense. If you continually evaluate information that way, you narrow it down kind of quickly. You narrow down the good from the bad.
And I kind of agree with Brian on this. Like, they do a lot of stuff to keep your eyes moving away from what they're actually doing.
Of course.
And so you don't even know how much I don't even know how much I believe in the transgender and all this other bullshit that they're pushing on you, whether they actually believe it or not, because I think they are. Here, watch this over here while we're doing this over here.
Dude, there's no other way. And again, I'm speaking out my ass somewhat on this. So if somebody wants to say, Chris, you're speaking out your ass, go ahead. But do you ever notice anytime there's anything of significant relevance, we get a murder of some random nobody that becomes national news? John Benet Ramsey. What was the girl that allegedly Gary Condit killed? That girl.
Yeah.
Whatever her name was.
Right.
I don't know. There's tons and tons of examples of it. This weekend.
There's one that takes over the story.
Yeah, it takes over Scott Peterson. Peterson and little Connor Peterson and whatever her name. Lacey. Who had great tits, by the way.
Absolutely.
I'm not supposed to ignore it. I'm supposed to ignore that because she's a victim, but victim with tremendous titties. But I mean, they do that. That's what they do over and over and over. Casey Anthony. Why is some woman killing her kid 6 months of media interest?
Right, in Florida, in the middle of nowhere.
I guarantee you,
it happens all the time.
I guarantee you, somebody killed their kid within 50 miles of us yesterday.
Right.
But it ain't national news. Why?
Somebody got murdered during the show, most likely.
Yeah, probably. But it's not national news. No. Why?
They pick and
because
choose.
It doesn't have an importance. They've got their right now today. They don't need a rando dead, and they don't need to divert our attention because all of our attention is diverted on these fucking No King Days. How does a thing like No King Day spread to every city in this country in a week? You think that just happened organically?
No.
Or do you think there was some controlling factor that?
Well, I mean, they list sponsors and stuff, but even still, I never even heard of these sponsors. A lot of these sponsors were like fucking professional protesting groups. But yeah, I mean, it spread like wildfire because somebody wanted it to spread like wildfire. It wasn't Nicole who ended up sponsoring one in fucking North Ridgeville that decided that she was gonna do the No Kings fucking bullshit. Somebody spread it to all these people.
Yeah, this is a very good one too. The OJ trial. Dude, go back and look at everything that happened in 94 and 95 politically. OJ that was 95, right? That was still Clinton, is that correct?
I think so.
OJ, Clinton started shutting down all the bases in the military. You had for the first or second time when they were allowing not having the budget. I believe it was right in that time frame when
95.
95. So you had all kinds of governmental shit going. Do you remember anything of 1995 other than the OJ trial?
I do not. No.
I don't either. Who was the baseball champion or football champion or basketball champion? Remember, they interrupted the basketball championship for the OJ chase. Who were the teams?
I couldn't tell you.
There you go. How many times has that been on everybody's TV? 1 million?
Yeah.
I know one of the teams was the Knicks. I have no idea who the other team was. And I only know that because I think I saw some video of John Starks talking about being upended by the OJ trial or the OJ running or whatever. Well, I agree with Brian on that. Sydney Sweeney, there's two big reasons to be distracted.
Fuck them.
Liv Morgan with her great little dumper.
It looks like it was The Magic and the Rockets in '95.
Oh, was it? Okay, maybe
Yeah.
it was the playoffs. I don't even remember.
Rockets won the final.
Did they? See, that should tell us.
Proves your point.
Yeah.
All right, real.
Seth Williams loves this land, stands tall and proud. Believes in freedom, speaks his mind out loud. Mentored by Triv, he learned to be tough. Life knocked him down, but he got back up. Lost a leg, but he's still strong and true. Chasing dreams under skies of red, white, and blue. Voting for Trump, he shouts it clear. WTAM tried to bring him down, but he's still here. In the heart of America, Seth takes a stand. Against the tides, he defends our land. Liberals call him crazy, but he don't care. He's got the spirit of an eagle, soaring high in the air. Hates LeBron James, won't wear that crown. Prefers hard work and blue jeans in this town. Radio waves try to shut him up, but Seth keeps singing, filling that cup. From the small town streets to the mountain high, Seth sees the flag waving, reaching for the sky. He keeps on fighting with a rebel yell, for every fallen soldier and the stories they tell. In the heart of America, Seth takes a stand. Against the tides, he defends our land. Liberals call him crazy, but he don't care. He's got the spirit of an eagle, soaring high in the air. Town streets to the mountain high, Seth sees the flag waving, reaching for the sky. He keeps on fighting with a rebel yell, for every fallen soldier and the stories they tell. In the heart of America, Seth takes a stand. Against the tides, he defends our land. Liberals call him crazy, but he don't care. He's got the spirit of an eagle, soaring high in the air.
handstoamerica.org to see how you can help.